So here is the locker, what comes in the box. Box looks like that. No slip traction system. Okay, from POWERTRAX. And of course it comes with a sticker. But I thought was a little weird was, came with a user's manual, but just like it doesn't tell you anything. I don't know if that was a mistake or what, but I had to go online and actually found the installation guide, and I printed that off. This actually tells you what you want to know. So if you're watching this and you don't have an AMC20 model axle, model 20, this number doesn't mean anything to you. You can read that at all. You will have to find your specific application, but 8221022A would be for AMC20 rear ends. So that's what the locker is. You've got springs here. You got 4 of this style, 2 of this style, and 2 of that style. Then you've also got what's called a check block, and that's your pinion shaft. And they're basically the same unit, just you can flop them on each side. So anyway, in the box here, so here is that pin. This is the new center pin. I'm gonna go ahead and take him out of there. There's that. Throw that away. Okay. And in this little pouch, side pouch, there's our springs. Okay. Put him aside for later. This little guy here, he's to check to make sure that the locker itself has a proper gap in it. And you can tell that it's actually a rectangle, it's not a perfect square. It should fit in between there narrow-wise, but it should not fit in between there that-wise. So that's what this is for. And it says in here that if it fits in here with that wide side, that you are supposed to call POWERTRAX and let them know, and they'll try to figure something out, I guess. And then here inside the bubble wrap is the coupler, the synchro rings, and then their active spacer and the driver. So they're all put together here. Oop, and they're all falling apart already. Okay. So you'll see here now, this right here is a synchro ring. I think this is what actually turns a little bit to allow your wheel to turn, like when you're going around corners. And you'll notice there's a little divot right there. That lines up with, this is called the active spacer. So, so you see how that fits inside that little groove right there? That's how that fits there. So this right here is the synchro ring, or the coupler, excuse me. And then you got this guy, and he's also going to have a flat spot. You'll notice that, here it is, one tooth is kind of missing. So that's right here, so you can see that. Bring it close to the camera. And that is right there. It's a wide gap. It's different than all the other ones. So we're actually going to take our spacer, put him in there. That's really the only spot it's going to fit. See, it really doesn't want to go anywhere else. That's not where it's supposed to be. It only fits right inside where that tooth is missing. Okay, and then this, I keep forgetting the terminology, this is the coupler. So this is actually the outside part of that faces the axle shaft. And like I said, you got to line up that with that little tab. So when you put these together, spin them a little bit. Try to get this lined up a little more in the center. There we go. And there you see it kind of clunked in there. And you see there is no gap now here. That's the way it should be. You want that. I mean, I think there's another spot. I was messing with this earlier. I think there's another spot where, okay, it kind of fits in there. Like it looks like on this side that it's in. I can get it close to the camera, you can see. But if you turn it, you notice that it's not completely flat. So you don't want that. That means it's about 90 degrees off. So here's where we got to put that back on. Here's my extended tooth, or that little lip, that indentation, and there's my lip. So let's try to put those back together. There we go, clunk. And now they are officially nice and flush. When you're putting these together, the two sides, they're essentially going to be opposite of each other. So this one this one's together, sitting flush. So you have two pins on this side, and then on the other side there's two indentations. Get it close to the camera. There's two indentations right here where the pins from the other one are going to end up sitting. And that just so happens to be 180 degrees out of where that tab is right here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw a Sharpie marker on this tab right here. So it lines up with that tooth right here. So there's that mark right there. If you can see that, I drew that Sharpie mark on it. Okay. Now I'm going to put this guy on it, mesh him up again. Come on. There we go, clunk. So that tells me right there is where that needs to go. So it's just easier for when I'm trying to wrestle this thing in the axle, in the center carrier. Okay. So there we go, that's in place. Now I've got to do that to the other side. Like I said, these are basically going to be 180 degrees out. So essentially we can just literally go like this. Okay, like that. And we can draw our marker right here and right there. So it'll be easier for us to get them in place. And when they're pushed like this together, it looks like it's actually not together, but that's because they're just sitting together. If I pull them apart, you can see that this one is actually 100% aligned, just that when you put them together, without the springs inside of here, which we'll get to later, to keep them pushed apart, they look like you push them together, they look like they're not together, but they are. So like I said, when we get in the axle, it's going to be facing us. We want it to face like this so we can see our Sharpie mark when we put it in. So we're going to basically build it one thing at a time, and now with our Sharpie marks on there, we know where to line it up. And then I'm going to cover the springs here really quick. So here's the springs, and you can easily tell which ones are the same. There's going to be 8 of these. Okay, there they are. Here's 8 of those. 2 of the larger ones and 2 of these long and long and skinny ones. Actually, what these do, the skinny ones actually go inside of the big ones here. Okay, like that. And when you put these together, right here is where these springs will go when it comes time. You can zoom in so you can actually see what I'm doing. That's where those will go. Okay, there's one on here, and then you flip it around 180 degrees. There's one there as well. Okay, and if you're wondering where the other springs go, they go in these little holes right here. If I can get it closer to the camera. There's inside of the center pin, You can see them. Move my finger maybe. Try my best to tilt it the right way so you can see those holes right there and right here, right there and right there. So there's 4 on this side, and of course there's 4 on that side. So that's where those 8 springs go. It does tell you in the instructions you want to use a lot of grease, and that grease will also help keep this stuff together as you're assembling it so it just doesn't fall apart. It also will help keep springs in, so when you're rotating this around they don't fall out, they don't move around. You know, this stuff will hopefully stay glued together. So with that said, let's try to assemble this now in the car, because we have our Sharpie mark drawn on each side. It should go together now. So let's give it a shot. Okay, I'm under the car now. Got all my parts moved over here, all the pieces. And I opened up a fresh can of wheel bearing grease, so I'm going to kind of use what I got here to get us going. It does say you want to heavily grease this, even, you know, not even, you know, in the, you know, to help you hold the springs in. It also says you want to grease it. So I'm going to put a little grease around it. All right, so that I'm going to call this our starting side, which is the driver's side. And before I forget, that thrust pin has to go inside of this, and we will get him in a second. So I think I can put this guy in first. Okay, he is on. I'm going to put our thrust pin in, which just barely gets in there. Okay, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to try to get this in position right away, because once we get all the stuff in here, there's such limited room. I'm going to try to get that hole, you know, like this. Might not, well, we'll see how well that works out, but I'm hoping that when I put the pin in, actually the pin is down here. Let's see, where's my roll? Okay, the roll pin is actually up here, so when I put the roll pin in, I'm actually going to be up here. Actually, what I could do is put a little grease on this guy, so in hopes that he turns with the center section when I get that far. Alright, so there's that. I got some grease on him. And he has to sit in there actually quite a bit to get everything else in place. When I put the axle in back in, he will get pushed into the center. So right now it's okay if he sits far in there, because actually that's where he has to be, otherwise I can't get stuff in and out of here. So I'll just push him in until he's about flush. That should be fine. Now I'm going to take more grease and I'm going to lather it up on here. Okay, I'm not doing a very good job here. Okay, I can't really see. Needs more. And it did say in the instruction manual the grease is not going to hurt it. In fact, it said it encouraged greasing. It said heavy greasing. It said heavy on the word grease. So I don't think not having any grease is going to be a bad thing. Now I'm going to take the synchro here in this piece and going to get it lined up. All right, there's my little Sharpie mark right here. Okay. And I got to spin this back, get that lined up. Okay, I'm gonna put some grease on him. Okay, I got the grease on that now, and I'm gonna set him into place. I'm gonna try to line up my Sharpie marks. There we go. There we go. You can see that grease coming out of there. There we go. So that's almost going to be in there like glue. All right, so we got that side installed. Oh, I know I forgot something. I got to take this back off. If I can. Yep, I'm going to take that off. Unfortunately, I forgot to put on... You want to put on the other side first. The other housing on this side, which is... I forgot what terminology is already. But you want to get him on the other side right away. So, put some grease on him. I must just be excited to get this going. So, anyway, get him in there. Him we got to latch up with the axle. And he slid right on. Oop. There we go. Now he's in place, so now that's taken care of. That other side back together, hopefully. Looking for my Sharpie mark. There it is. Making sure that's still in place. There we go. And that's on there. Okay, so that side's installed. Now we'll get the right side officially done. I probably should have put some grease on this when I had it out in my hand. But I think I'll grease the other side really well. It's together. Now there's my Sharpie mark. I'm gonna line that up. And hopefully this goes in there, because I would be sad if it didn't. So unfortunately for me, I removed the wrong side of the axle. My suspicions unfortunately came true. There was a lip on this axle that just ever so slightly stuck out, and this is, I'm talking about the passenger side axle, and therefore I couldn't get the other synchro on there. So unfortunately I had to remove my passenger side axle now, which just means I'm gonna have to, well, do the same with the bearing and the seals and all that. So it's unfortunate for me, but I hope that, you know, you, when you're watching this, you learn from my mistake, and instead of taking out your driver's side axle, take out your passenger side axle. You'll thank yourself. There we go. But I'm still going to assemble the locker right now, because there's no reason why that can't be assembled. Then after that, which I'll have to go and have my other side pressed out, and I'll be able to stick all that back together. But for now, this is the way, unfortunately, it has to be. Okay. Trying to find my Sharpie mark. There it is. And hopefully this goes together. It's a tight fit. It helps if it's also lined up. And of course, we're already much farther. Oh, but we're not lined up. That's for sure. Come on. There we go. Push that together. Now we are lined up. But like I said, we can still assemble this now. So from what I understand, we're going to try to keep these together, and I'm going to rotate them to expose the first one here. And I'm going to put in the big and little spring. There we go. So the little spring has sat in between that and that groove, and then with the bigger spring in the middle. Okay, and now I'm gonna turn it to the other side. I'm gonna wipe some of this excess grease off when I'm done. I think there's a little bit too much. I don't think it really needs to be out there, out on the outside of the locker itself. And here's the other spring. Of course, that one doesn't want to play nice. There we go. So that's finally sitting in there nice and flush. I'm going to go back and check the other one. Okay, and that one is still good. All right, now we need to put in these springs here. So we got that one, that one, that one, and that one. What I'm gonna do is put some grease in those holes. And then attempt put them in. I thought I had a good idea there. Alright, I'll try to get this spring in here now. There it is. Okay. These holes are a little hard to see. I try to feel my way in there. And that is not the hole. Okay, I got that one in. Gotta try to put some more grease around it. Try to kind of hold it in place. Get her over to the other side. Alright, now this is where you would normally just put your axle back in and call her good, call her a day. But unfortunately for me, I can't go much further. I can push the driver's side axle in because that's where the thrust pin is located in the driver's side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my driver's side axle, push it in, and I'm going to get it so I can get my pin in here. Actually, what I want to do is probably have this ready to go. And you're going to want to have your car in neutral when you're doing this in order for you to spin this like this if you haven't already. Alright. So now, I'm going to try to get that axle in and push the thrust pin over. Alright, right now I can't tell if I'm lined up or not, so I'm going to move this back around. Okay, I'm not lined up right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a screwdriver in here, or this pin poker style, and I'm going to turn that thrust pin until it's about, you know, straight back and forth like that. Now, try my best to get this lined up. Put this back down. And then I'm going to try to get these lined up. Alright, I'm pretty close. I can get in here now and then just push it down, or the direction that I need it to go. Alright, now I'm going to stick the pin in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of grease on it. Okay. Alright, they said you're going to have to wiggle it back and forth in the instruction manual, because you have to push it past the pin, or the springs, I mean, which is exactly what's happening right now. And of course, it's greasy, so that doesn't help. Okay, it took me a little bit of a second. I had to figure out, I thought I was doing something wrong, but no, it's actually that kind of hard. That says right in the manual I read, you have to push hard while twisting. Well, it's hard to get a grip on this, so what I did is I got my punch that I modified from before. I stuck it in here, and I finally got past the first set of springs. So I stuck it in here, and I just started twisting and pushing. I finally got past that first set. It is definitely a tight fit. There we go. So now I finally got past the second set of springs, and now I'm going to try to get this lined up. It's a tight fit. There. Oh, now it's probably a little too much. All right, let's try that. All right, that was a little bit of a struggle. So officially, my locker's installed, but fortunate for me, I can't do anything about it yet because I gotta wait for my passenger side axle to come back. So, bummer for me, but for you, it'll just be a transition away.